And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Bulls. I'm your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with the first VFL Vantage of the season. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Victorian Football League stands and takes attention as we go through the first month of play. We will only cover the men. The women are still getting ready for the season. They have not started, so we will go through the first four rounds of the men. And joining me, as per usual, from lovely Victoria, um, Australia, in Melbourne, we have Brendan Rhodes. Brendan, it is great to see you, sir. Hopefully, we can talk some great first month of VFL football.
Always an absolute privilege, Donny. Thanks very much. Great to be with you all again. And yeah, this season already has set up to be even more remarkable than last one. My tips were terrible last year. It seems like they're worse this year. So that tells me we've got a great competition.
Well, it's always fantastic when you can take the piss out of yourself, but always a little bit of fun. And the one thing I cannot wait for to talk about one of the new sparkly clubs in the competition. I cannot wait to discuss them. Let's hop right into it. I don't want to waste any more time. We will jump back just a little bit around a month ago and start with round one of the season. Start off at Box Hill as the Box Hill Hawks get a win over the Swans 107-71. The Cats smashed the Essendon Bombers 163-78, an absolute cracker at Kinetic Stadium, which we both said we could not wait to see as the Seagulls go into Kinetic Stadium and get a win over the Dolphins 97-95. The Richmond Tigers get a win over Southport 100-60. GWS get a win over St. Kilda 118-74. The lovely look of North Hobart Oval absolutely chuckas as they get a win over Kobe, as the Tassie Devils get a win in their first ever game in the competition 96-79. The Footscray Bulldogs get a 43-point win over the KC Demons 135-92. Werribee bounce back and get a win over Gold Coast 73-58. And the Borough beat Sandy Zebras. I'm not going to say the Zandy Dragons this time. Get the 101-87 win over Port Melbourne. Get the win over the Sandy Zebras 101-87. That is round one. I got it. Let's go here first because this was the go-to. There were vision of this everywhere. AFL, AFL.com, on the VFL, so much. Tassie Devils, North Hobart Oval, absolutely chockers with people, and the Devils treat their home crowd to a win, 96-79, a 17-point win. How awesome is it? The Devils are in the competition.
Oh, it's magnificent. And there was 11,500 people there that will never forget that day. And probably 10 times as many of that watching from home that in 20 years' time will tell you that they were there.
Hmm.
Uh, I
Definitely.
think it was 10,521, remembering rightly, which is the biggest non-grand final crowd that we've had in the VFL for a long, long time. And it was brilliant down at North Hobart Oval, a beautiful sunny day, a tight contest from start to finish. Every time one team looked like getting away, the other one would come back. For the most part, if I remember rightly, it was Tassie who was in front. Three times they broke away. Three times Coburg came back. And even at the end, the Devils had gotten out by about 6 goals, and Coburg kicked the last three to bring it back to that 17-point margin. So it was absolutely delirium down there. If there was another 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so, it might have been replaced by quite a few nerves. But it was just an amazing day. And Hugh Dixon, the star spearhead, started well with 4 goals. Jed Hagen, a waffle star who we knew was going to be good, but he announced himself with 4 as well for the Devils. Mitch Padashki, a great start to the season for him with 3. But it was just the excitement and the joy on the faces of everyone down in Tassie to know that they're on the way back. I know the AFL has declared that the 7-year period back in the 2000s, 7 or 8 year period back in the 2000s, was a different club, so that those stats don't count. Plenty of people don't agree with that. Others
Hmm.
do, but that's the way it is. So officially, Tassie off the mark.
Awesome. Absolutely love it. And we can't go to round two. We have to talk about the absolute classic that happened at Kinetic Stadium. I mean, the Seagulls and the Dolphins absolutely having a crack. Absolutely fantastic game of football. Talk me through this because again, the Seagulls find a way to get it done on the road.
sitting at home watching this, I was thinking at quarter time, I was thinking, what's going on? It was Williamstown kicked 5 goals, 6 to no score in the first quarter. They led by 36 points. The game was, for all intents and purposes, over, and the fortress that is down there on the Cairn Hill at Frankston was almost in stunned silence. But it only took them 1 goal in the second in the second quarter to wake up. They came charging back into the contest. They were within a goal by half time. They took the lead by 3/4 time, and it was even more remarkable to think that they might have won after such a poor first term. But then the last quarter just went goal for goal, and Williamstown, as they so often do, found themselves in front when the final siren went in front of. And again, there was, I think, over 5,000 people there for this one, which was just an amazing exhibit for VFL and State League footy. Ben Kennedy, 4 goals on debut for Williamstown. Not a bad start after being on the list all last year and not being able to get a game. He comes in for round 1 and boots 4. And Corey Ellison got a good start for Frankston with 5, getting his team back into the game. But Williamstown just giving a little bit of a hint that they're not going to be just an also ran in the middle of the top 10 this season. And Frankston, well, an early home loss puts a dent in the top 4 hopes.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, for sure. And you love it. Getting a classic in round 1 is absolutely fantastic. Let's jump over to round 2, where we see the Giants get a win over the Pies 95-79. The Cats with another dominating win, beating Box Hill 123-76. Frankston bounce back, get the Kinetic Stadium back rocking again, getting a win over St. Kilda 73-65. Coburg get a win over Richmond 87-64. The Sharks and the Lions with an absolute shootout as the Sharks get a win 122-101. The Sandy Zebras get off the mark as they get a win over Werribee 73-57. The Tassie Devils 2-0 as they get a win over the Borough 101-93. The Bombers get a win over North Melbourne 98-79. And the Seagulls, another classic one. The Seagulls starting off the season in dramatic fashion, getting a 5-point win over Carlton 84-79. Let's go to it, an 8-point game as the Borough test the Mighty Devils, but the Devils are 2-0 after 2 games.
And this one was an even better game than the week before. It was played up in Launceston, so they made their debut at UTAS Stadium in Launceston. The Devils, not quite a packed house there, but still I think 8,000 or 9,000 people turned up to the game. A bigger stadium, but also with reduced capacity due to the grandstand being replaced there. But the Northern Tasmania crowd loved it just as much as the Southern and Tasmanians did, and it was another seesawing game. First 2 goals to Tasmania. Port came back and actually took a lead by a goal. Tassie kicked 4 in a row. Port kicked 3 in a row. Tassie 4 in a row. Port 2 in a row. And it was goal for goal right to the end. And it was only basically right on the siren that John Menzies kicked a goal for Tasmania to make this game safe. It was 2 points the difference at the 27-minute mark of the last quarter. And Menzies' 4th with almost the last kick of the game just set up an amazing start. And both wins, I mentioned that the tips have been horrible. Both those ones are ones that I got right because I just thought Tassie had a good squad. I've got them to make the finals this year, as I said in our last chat. They've got to be winning games at home, and they did the business, and they're off to a terrific start. Port Melbourne 1-1 now, but they had a hard-fought win over Sandringham, who really put up a good fight and just fell short to Tassie, which was no disgrace down there. Mm-hmm. But this round, Donnie, was one of the most remarkable that I've seen for a long time. I'm just trying to remember back to what all the drought breaking was going on. GWS was given no chance against Collingwood, and they found themselves down 7-2 at quarter time before running them down. Geelong Box Hill was the game that I saw, that I commentated. The Cats beat the Hawks for the first time in 10 years, would you believe, in this competition. And they were They were scary good. They were as good as they could possibly be, and I'd never seen Box Hill play as badly as that Friday night down at the Cattery. Uh, Frankston, a win over St Kilda, they needed that. And the Saints still looking for their first victory. Coburg beat Richmond for the first time in 10 years. And Beacon and Richmond lost at their second home of Beaconsfield for the first time in 9 years. Um, then of course was Sandringham's first win as a standalone club in 26 years. Listen to the score at half time in this game, Werribee and Sandringham, 8-5-53 Werribee, 2-7-19 Sandringham, 53-19. Final score, 57-73. I still don't know what happened, and I'm pretty sure Werribee still doesn't know what happened. But they'd played in hot conditions on the Gold Coast the week before, and they just seemed to stop like they were shot. They completely ran out of legs in the second half, and the Zebras ran over top of them. Yeah, what a great round of football.
Definitely, for sure. Let's move on. Round three, just a couple of weeks ago, we'll start off as North Melbourne get a win over Carlton, 110-99. The Zebras get it done again as they knock off the Brisbane Lions up in Queensland, 98-91. Collingwood bounce back and get a win over Coburg, 119-74. Tassie Devils go on the road to Frankston and absolutely smash the Dolphins, 145-67. Geelong keeping it strong with another win, beating Werribee 90-46. The Sydney Swans get a win over Port Melbourne, 78-57. The Sharks smash the Suns, 145-69, a 76-point win. An absolute classic at Casey Fields as Box Hill survive and get a win and just fall short, 110-106. Read your numbers correctly, coach. I thought it was 100-106. It's 110-106. Read the numbers correctly, coach. Richmond get a win over St Kilda by 33, 108-75. Footscray end the round with a nice, impressive 47-point win over the Dons, 118-71. But let's go to it, sir. I got to talk about this. This is a shocker. The Zebras get another win, but this time on the road at Brisbane. This had to be a little bit of a stunner throughout the competition.
The only way I could describe this was, and again, I might be being a little bit dramatic here. I can't think of a bigger upset in the 10 seasons I've had covering the VFL. And that's no disrespect to Sandringham. They're a new team. They've basically got a whole heap of players who haven't played at this level before. There was 9 debutants in round one. I think there was another 2 in this game. So there's basically 11 first or second gamers and probably another half a dozen that wouldn't have played 5. And they've gone to Queensland, their first interstate trip, against a team who I had predicted to be up there in the top 4 or 6, maybe a little bit down from previous years because of their injury list. But it was level at quarter time, and then the second quarter was just disbelieving. I still don't understand it. 7 goals, 3 to 1-1. Sandringham kicked the Zebras in that second quarter. Just crazy stuff. And then Brisbane came back as Brisbane does. They got back within a point early in the last quarter, and the Zebras were able to bravely hold on for about the last 15 or 16 minutes of the game with basically no goals kicked. And Brody Atkins kicked one after the siren, which gave them the 7-point victory in just a classic upset and a classic tale of the underdog come good. And how good was it? Two wins out of 3 for Sandringham against highly credentialed opponents proved that there is nobody that can be taken lightly, even with 22 teams.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, for sure. And then we got to talk about it. I nearly buggered up all of the excitement because I almost read it incorrectly. But let's go down to Casey Fields, an absolute classic between the D's and the Box Hill Hawks. The D's find a way to get it done. I mean, it's interesting seeing footy games where both teams knock up the century mark.
It doesn't happen very often, but it is actually seeming to be on the rise again, which is great to see. You want to see these shootouts. It gives the coaches hate them, no question about that. The
Mm-hmm.
coaches hate them because it means their defense is falling down, and coaches love defense. But when you see them, two teams just take the game on and go bang, it's great to watch. It was 3 goals the lead for Box Hill at quarter time. They led by 4 points at the half. 1 point the difference Casey's way at 3/4 time. The match tightened up a little bit in the last term, just 3 goals to 2. But Casey proving after a bad loss in round 1 and then a bye that they can't be taken lightly either. They're a very good team and they're going to be hard to beat at home. Aidan Johnson and Luca Kentfield with 4 goals apiece. I think that's Kentfield's best performance of his VFL career. And Aidan Schubert's third gamer, young key forward from South Australia from Central District, kicked 5 goals. And Brodie McLaughlin, that Frosty Miller medalist, that dual Frosty Miller medalist, who had basically retired from VFL footy at the end of last year, only to be talked back by a potential Hawthorn contract, only to break his leg in the first week of that trial and miss out. They managed to get him to stay at the Hawks, and he's off to a great start as well with another 4. The other game I have to, before you go, the other game I do have to touch on was the game that I did, which was Tassie again. I know we don't want to overdo Tassie, but
It's hard not to. It's hard not to.
When I said Geelong, when I said Geelong was unbelievably scary good against Box Hill the week before, Tassie was just as good against Frankston down at the pod. It was like I was sitting there watching it and calling it, and I couldn't understand how good they were. Frankston just couldn't get their hands on the football. It wasn't they were bad. The Devils just kicked the first 4 goals of the game. They went to sleep for 20 minutes, found themselves behind at quarter time. And it was 6 goals to 1 in the second quarter, 6 goals to 3 in the third, and then 5 goals to 1 in the last. And the speed with which they moved the ball and the skill which they showed as they went from one end to the other, admittedly not a big ground, but they did it in, they did it in seemed like 3 or 4 seconds at times. This is the game. Forget the 2 home wins; they were great. This is the game that tells me that Tasmania is not only a genuine top 10 chance, they're potentially at even a top 4 chance if they keep playing like that.
It would be awesome for the competition if they did. I will definitely say that for sure. But that is an utter trouncing. Let's go to it. The last round that we're going to discuss, the last round played this last weekend. Round 4 starts off as the Footscray Bulldogs end the Geelong winning streak to start the season with a win 33, 84, 51. The Swans in the Sydney Derby Light get a win 96-74. Carlton bounce back and get a win in the Derby between them and Collingwood Light, 85-54. An absolute shootout. We thought the last round had an amazing one. This one I can't wait to talk about as Essendon go up to Gold Coast and get a win. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, 123-117. Holy crap. We will definitely come back to that one. Williamstown get a win over Southport 127-74. St. Kilda get a win over Coburg 114-85. North Melbourne smash the Zebras 149-69. Box Hill goes, we're going to play like this. Get a 143-70 win, a 73-point win. Werribee smash the Dolphins 102-80. And the Lions get a big win over Casey by 38, 125-87. Besides the fact that every single team after the first 3 games won, scoring 100 points, we got to go to this. A 6-point thriller where both teams put up not only 100, but 123-117. Neither defense was playing worth a darn in this game, it seems like.
And it could have been a lot more too if Gold Coast weren't so wasteful. You saw in the AFL game, which I'm sure you've talked about already, it was the Suns who won by 9 points, kicking 17-17 to 17-8, 119 to 110, I think it was. 2 or 3 hours earlier, it was the same story with the Suns basically for long periods forgetting where the middle was. But on this occasion, it cost them 19-9 for Essendon, 28 scoring shots. 16-21 for Gold Coast, 37 scoring shots. 37 scoring shots to 28, and they lost. So they'll be left kicking themselves. They'd probably miss if they tried. Uh, although that might be a bit harsh considering they still kick 16 goals. Uh, but but
That's
they
funny.
but Jamara Ugle-Hagan, 5 goals. Great to see him back and playing good football. Hopefully he can keep that going and get himself back in the AFL team to make a Suns debut up there now. But you can't take anything away from Essendon. 8 goals to 2 in the first quarter, and they still led amazingly. Just having another look at this, by 40 points at three-quarter time, the Bombers. But it was the Suns who charged home. They kicked 7-6 to 2-2 in the last quarter, and arguably they should have won the game.
Mm-hmm.
But they spotted Essendon too big a head start by being 9 goals 15 at three-quarter time, and they were left to pay the price. And they, unbelievably, as one of my premiership contenders, find themselves on the bottom of the ladder as the only team still to win a game, and with some serious work to do, the Suns.
Definitely, for sure. So that is all four of the rounds that have been played. Fantastic to hear some of the great football. We jump to the burning questions, sir, and I will start off. You got
I
something?
I do have to touch on a couple more. Sorry, Donny.
No, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Footscray said, "Hold my beer." Geelong were unbelievable, percentage of 180 or something like that.
Hmm.
And Footscray, the reigning premiers, went down there and smashed them.
Hmm.
Simple as that. Sydney in the derby, great result, and we've just seen out of that the Swans are going to have 2 debutants this week in the
Yep.
AFL. Billy Cootie, the Norwood recruit, former Essendon VFL captain, he kicked 3 goals in that game and he gets a debut. And Will Edwards, we've been waiting for him for 3 years. Every time it looked like he was about to get a game, the key defender, he has an injury. So he's finally going to play on Thursday night after having 21 disposals and 9 marks against the Giants. So we had to touch on that one. Williamstown, talking about hold my beer. Uh, Geelong's unbelievable football in round 2. Tasmania's unbelievable football in round 3. I had the pleasure of calling this one. Southport missing the best player in the competition in Jacob Dawson due to suspension, but 14 goals to 1 at the 30-minute mark of the second quarter. Williamstown led this. And yeah, they're now 3-0, and they've proven as well that their football is as good as any in the competition. And you can't forget St Kilda finally in round 4 breaking through for their first win back in the VFL after 26 years. So congratulations to them. Brodie McLaughlin, another 7 goals for Box Hill Hawks. Mitch Padashki kicked 6. It was just a week for shootouts.
Definitely. The fact that all the teams had to score 100, except for the first three games, all the teams that won scored over 100 points in those last few games of the round. So let's jump to it. We will jump to the burning questions, and we'll talk about a few of those teams that featured a lot in our games of the week for each round, because there are three unbeaten teams. We're down to three left. Footscray, Tasmania, and Williamstown all have no notches in the loss column. So I'll ask you, I know this isn't easy because this is going to be a tough competition, so many teams and some competitive games. Who do you think of those three will be the last one with a zero still in the L column?
Hard to say. Quite obviously, Footscray has been the least dominant in games of the three, but there's no question at full strength they're the best credentialed. They won the grand final last year. It was a thriller, but they dominated the whole season. They've taken on the most dominant team of the first 3 rounds before the state league bye, and up and well done to the VFL in an epic game that was too. Um, and they went down to Geelong where the Cats had dismantled teams already, and they beat them easily. Tasmania and Williamstown we've touched on, and Geelong second, third, and fourth with some devastating football. So they seem to have cleared out a little bit at the top. I'd have to look at the fixture. Footscray has a danger game this week against Sydney, only due to the injuries that they've got. the injuries they've got in the AFL team that will weaken the VFL team on Friday morning. So they could be seen to be potentially vulnerable on Friday. I'll still be picking Footscray because they're just that good. Uh, but that will be a challenge for them to overcome. I think Tasmania and looking at what Tasmania should win this week, and Williamstown, well, they'll start favourites on Anzac Day in their derby against Werribee. But right now, it wouldn't surprise me to answer your question in a long-winded way that Tasmania could very easily be sitting alone by the end of round 5.
Yep, wouldn't be surprised, and that's a great transition because let's wax lyrical again. We've talked about it. It's the great scenes that we saw at North Hobart Oval in round one, seeing sellouts, seeing the Apple Isle embrace this club. Again, whether they're a new club or not, we won't get into that. We won't get into that talk. Let's just go to it. How awesome has this edition of Tassie been so far for the VFL? I know we're only 3 games in, but how awesome has it been?
Well, we've been talking about them every week, and
Hmm.
everyone's talking about them, not just in Tassie, but over here on the mainland as well. Their first ever game at North Hobart in round 1, a win. Their first ever game in Launceston in round 2, a win. Their first ever game in Victoria in round 3, a belligerent win. And now they've got the Anzac Day night lights at Bellerive Oval, the first time at Bellerive Oval at Ninja Stadium against in their first contest against an AFL reserves team. This will be, I have no doubt, another 10,000 plus crowd at Bellerive. They will pack it in under lights on Saturday night, and I think they'll have a bit of a challenge because Carlton right now has probably 3 or 4 players who have played well over 200 AFL games playing in the VFL. A couple of them inexplicably, George Hewitt in particular. So we wait for selection. That it'll be a real challenge for them, but I expect that big crowd to kick them home again.
Definitely for sure. And then I never like going negative, but let's go to it. Kind of the shocker because I know this team, at least AFL wise, has been a common pick as one of the better teams in competition. Is that how shocking is it that Gold Coast is without a win so far?
Well, I put them in the top 4, so that answers your question straight up. I was
Yep.
talking about how good my tips are going. Who did I have in the top 4? Gold Coast sitting last. Collingwood is sitting, I think that is 16th.
Yep.
Um, who else did I have? Those two. Footscray are on top, of course,
Yep.
and Southport are in 10th. So I'm a fair
Yep.
way off the mark at the moment. It is still early days, and it can definitely turn around. But
Oh yeah. Yep.
this is a non-negotiable for the Suns this week, and it's a danger match. St Kilda has worked out how to win. They had a great win. The last 2 times that Sandringham played Gold Coast at this ground at Moorabbin at RSCA Park, draws. Both of them draws. So there's no question this will be a tight contest. But if the Suns are to do anything this year, they will be beating St Kilda. Um, that's just simply the way it is. So their season is basically on the line here, the Suns, and it stuns me that they're that low already.
Yep. No, not it's I each week I check into the scores and was stunned to see this Gold Coast side again with so much talent where they are. But again, long season to go, plenty of games, but a little concerning to start off 0-3 and you have to dig yourself out of quite the hole when it comes to it if they want to try to make finals. I know it's a long time from now, but it's going to be crazy. So that is it for the burning questions. And because of always the fun when it comes to the internet, we will just jump right to tips for round 5, a huge Anzac weekend. Again, this is one of my favorite weekends of the fixtures when it comes to it is not only respecting the Anzacs but the incredible games that we are usually given. So let's start off with it, sir. Start off with one I know both you and I will be quite interested in, and that is at the Witten Oval as you're the top of the table. Footscray Bulldogs get to take on the Sydney Swans, cracking one in this one. Earlier, you said, are you going to hold to it, Footscray in this one, or will the Swans find a way to nip the top of the ladder leaders?
Well, I'm lucky enough to get a Swans game this week. This is my game for broadcast straight off the bat on Friday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time, which I think gives you guys some reasonable timing
8:05
Thursday
for me. Yep.
night, doesn't it, to be able
Yep.
to be able to watch that?
Yep. 8:05 on my Thursday night after I
Uh,
get to wake up early to watch the Swans since they're the prime
five
time
p.m. on a
club.
Thursday afternoon to watch some footy. That's
Yep.
go you got to back up again.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
beautiful work. No, I am still going for Footscray. They will have quite a few players out, as we said, with you know Darcy and Liberatore and these guys out of the AFL team, which
Mhm.
naturally means that players from the VFL team have to go up to take their spots. So that makes them a little bit vulnerable. But when you've got a team that you've tipped to be in the top two up against a team that you didn't have in the top 14 early on in the season. I know the Swans are in form. They'll come down here confident. But if they were to beat Footscray, as they did in this fixture a couple of years ago, it would be definitely their best win of the year so far.
Yep, I'm gonna tip Footscray in this one. A little concerning considering there's still a little bit of iffiness as whether we know no Libba, we know no English. It's Bontempelli and Lob are still huge question marks. So if both of those guys aren't selected, that could really hurt the Footscray Bulldogs. I'm still gonna tip the doggies in this one, just a little too much experience. And with the fact that you have Edwards and Cootie going up for the Swans, what's coming back down to play in the VFL side will be interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
got the doggies in this one, but I think that should be a cracking one for me for an early Thursday evening game. Followed by another good one at Victoria Park is the Collingwood Magpies host the Essendon Bombers in this one. Who do you like in this matchup?
I bring out the old signal for this.
I can understand
Un-
that.
under under the lists, once again, you'd expect Collingwood to win, but they're not firing. They've been very disappointing so far. The Magpies, for what I believe that they've got on their list, and Essendon seem to have turned a corner in the last couple of weeks. They've had a couple of wins in the VFL. Uh, I still think the Magpies should have the class to get the job done, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me if Essendon, with their free flowing play and scoring power, to kick 19 goals against Gold Coast on the Gold Coast suggests an ability to score that we still have to question whether Collingwood at all levels have. So, but it's Collingwood. I think they can shut the Bombers down to a lower scoring game at Victoria Park and get it done.
Yep, definitely. I think I'm gonna join you on that one. Got the pies in that one. Home cooking, but again, there's a little bit of confidence in Don's land. The AFL team's playing better, so we'll have to see how that goes on that one. Another one, Kinetic Stadium again sees the Dolphins host the Coburg Lions on this one. Dolphins, Lions, a good old cracking unattached side in this one. Fascinating. Who do you like in this one?
It's almost season on the line for these two teams. It's only round five. It's only their fourth games. Frankston's already dropped two at home, and if they were to lose another one at home, it would basically render their top four hopes gone unless they can start getting on the road and having some wins on the road, which is very possible. But this is a non-negotiable for them. But Coburg is in the same situation. They've lost a couple of home games as well, and they will have to see this as an away game they need to win to get their season back on track. Mitch Padashki's playing his 100th VFL game for Coburg. Ryan Sturgis is playing his 50th, so there's a little bit of extra motivation there if they needed it. Uh, Frankston usually beats Coburg down there, and I think off the top of my head, they've been going okay in recent times away too. You've still got to pick Frankston at home, um, especially after Coburg was beaten by St Kilda last week.
Definitely. I'm gonna go Frankston, hoping that they can get some hometown win. But again, that's a tough matchup on this one. Out to Casey Field does the Casey Demons take on the Richmond Tigers. Fascinating one in this one. You know what? I'm gonna take some hometown cooking. I don't know why. Just give me Casey on this one. I don't know. Just a weird feeling on this one. Who do you like in this one?
I'm with you. I'm with you. No, and you just feel that Casey should be better. They very disappointing loss to the Brisbane Lions last week. The Lions obviously had to bounce back coming off that shocker against Sandringham, and they did in dominant fashion. I would have thought it'd be a few home truths being told at Casey. Richmond, like the Bulldogs, had a spate of injuries in their AFL game last week, which is going to weaken the VFL team. And as a result, it's the Demons who should be winning this game.
Yep, definitely for sure. A cracking one at DSV Stadium at Williamstown as the Seagulls host their rivals, the Werribee Tigers. Cracking one in this one. A good old fashioned rivalry. What do you like in this one? Williamstown, Werribee. Who do you like?
The traditional Saturday night Anzac Day game now, they've been doing this for basically every year since COVID. So um, it's not a long term tradition, but it's becoming a good tradition, and there'll be a huge crowd here on Saturday night at DSV. Hopefully, the weather is good for them. Williamstown will hope it's terrible because the worse it is at DSV Stadium, the better they seem to play. But I can't pick against a team that played as well as Williamstown did in that first half against Southport so soon afterwards. Werribee
Mhm.
is a very dangerous opponent, but so was Southport, and they got dismantled. So it's Williamstown to win.
Yep, I got Williamstown with me on this one. As you said, that it could be the first little test for this Tassie Devils side as they go up to Hobart to play the Carlton Blues. This should be a cracking game on this one. Give me Tassie on this one, but I think the Blues will test this very good Tassie side.
Yeah, they'll take a little bit of beating. There's a couple of players under injury clouds for Tasmania as well, being Jed Hagen, and at the top of that list after copping a knock in the state game. So hopefully he gets up and can take his spot in the team. Carlton will bring a lot of experience, as I said. Blokes who have played in front of big crowds affect them as much as it affected the two standalone teams that have already been down there. But I still can't go past Tassie in their current form. The question you have to ask is: does a 22-day break since their last game stifle the momentum and bring them back and bring them undone a little bit, or can they find a way to just start the engine up when the traffic light goes green?
Yeah, definitely for sure. What I think could be a sneaky game, at least a couple of right now in the in the finals contention, as we see Tom Willis Oval up in Sydney as the Giants take on North Melbourne in this one, a cracking game, fifth versus eighth. Who do you like in this one?
North Melbourne very capable of winning this one, no question. I am going for the Giants, based solely on the terrible time slot for the game. I think it makes it really hard for senior footballers to front up at 9:30 a.m.
Mhm.
Um, it's done so that the game is finished and the players can get. Normally, it's done so that the game is finished and the players can get themselves set for the AFL game on the same venue. But the Giants and North Melbourne AFL game doesn't happen until 4:40 p.m. and it's in a completely different city in Canberra. So this tells me that potentially they're going to play this game, and some people from this venue will then have to fly to Canberra to fulfil duties in the AFL.
Oh boy.
Not necessarily as players, of course, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Support
Giants for
staff, yeah.
me simply because of the yeah yes simply because of the early time slot. Um, I think North might be still rubbing a bit of sleep from their eyes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised on that one. Yeah, it's 6:30 p.m. 6:30 p.m. for me on my Saturday evening, so may take a look at that if nothing's going on in that one. So then to join
Perfect for
that,
Giants and Roos fans over there.
yeah, I know it'd be very convenient, especially if they want to watch VFL football. And then to join to it, just a half an hour later, we see the Brisbane Lions up at Brighton Homes Arena up in Queensland, hosting the borough of Port Melbourne on this one. Can Brisbane get a win, or Port Melbourne go on the road and steal 4 points away from Queensland?
Surely they don't get ambushed again, the Lions. They were ambushed by Sandringham in this fixture a couple of weeks ago. They got another standalone team hiding last week, Port, so they'll come out fired up to try and do something unusual. But the same situation, an early start for a standalone team is even more of an issue, I think. And yeah, if Brisbane can't win this game comfortably, I'd be almost happy to put a line through them.
Yeah, this one's gonna be tough. Whoever falls in this one, definitely for sure. Fun one at Wilson Storage, Trevor Barker Beach Oval. There's a mouthful for you as the Sandy Zebras host the Box Hill Hawks. Can the Zebras pull a stunner, or are the Hawks just too strong?
Hawks are too strong, I think. Sandy had a couple of really good performances, a couple of terrific victories. Box Hill flexed their muscle last week with that big win over the Borough. I think they'll repeat that against the Zebras. They'll show pluck, they'll show spirit, they'll show pride in the Guernsey, which they have done all year so far. Sandringham before last week's bad loss to North Melbourne, but Box Hill just have too many weapons for Sandy, and they should win.
All right, and then rounding out, do we see it, sir? Can the Gold Coast Suns get their first win as they come down to Victoria to RESEA Park as they take on the Saints? And this one, can the Suns get it done, or do the Saints keep the pain going for the for the beloved Suns?
The Suns can, the Suns should, but I can't for certain say the Suns will.
Hmm.
Um, St Kilda will be buoyed by that win last week. That first win back in the competition. They beat Coburg at Coburg. Gold Coast coming down here to a venue where they've drawn their past two games, as I mentioned earlier, albeit against Sandringham. They if, again, if the Suns want to do anything this year, it's going to take 10 wins as a rule. It's going to take 10 wins to make the top 10. So if you're 0-4, that means you've got to win 10 out of 14. So there's no room left for error for Gold Coast, and they just have to come down here and win.
Hmm. I sure hope so, because you never want to be that last. You never want to be that last team to finally get a win, and this isn't easy. But hopefully, maybe going on the road brings the boys together. Hopefully, but we will definitely see. So that is it. That is all the games set for this amazing Anzac weekend. I cannot wait, not only for the AFL but the VFL games coming up on Anzac weekend. It'll be an incredible weekend of football. I cannot wait for it. Brendan, as per usual, another fantastic chat. Thankfully, we got through it without any internet issues. So we will touch wood on this particular one. So thank you
No,
again so
no
much.
internet issues. Whoa!
I know, right? Let's wrap this up. So much fun to have you on, as per usual. Thank you so much. Your knowledge of this incredible competition is always great.
It's absolutely brilliant, mate. Thanks very much, Donny, and enjoy the footy to everyone over there in the United States.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, for this episode of VFL Vantage, a little section of the Donnie's Disposal podcast. Again, if you like what you were listening to, if you like how this old American keeps track of the footy, would love a like and subscribe. If not, but if so, we absolutely love. Please come back. It's absolutely fantastic. And we will be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.